My name is Ellis Vener. I'm a professional photographer. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia. Previously, I was based in Houston, Texas for 20-odd years. I have photographed people, architecture, and industry. My job as a corporate industrial photographer is to stop the viewer on the page, make them look at the picture longer, get them to read the text. Words and pictures have to work together, but if you don't have a good picture, people aren't going to be interested in all those words on the page. Sometimes it means isolating a process or a product out of its normal context, as in shooting in biotechnology labs or technology labs, and finding elements there that can make the background for a set, and then doing a fair amount of lighting. Well, when I get to a location, it's usually a location I haven't seen before, I will ask questions of people who work there, like, what do you do here? What does this do? And so I want to know what it is they do, what's important about their process. I'll get them to show me that, and then I'll start thinking about picture ideas. Where should the camera go? What needs to be shown? And just as importantly, what does not need to be shown? Once I have my framing and composition down, if I'm working with the camera on a tripod, I then start lighting. What I basically do is I'll set my main light, take a meter reading. The meter I use these days is the Sekonic L758 meter. I'll use it in both spot and incident mode. It's important to know where the values fall, and how I use the meter really depends on what I'm doing. Or what I'm shooting, what my idea is for the photograph. You want to figure out where you want the viewer's eye to go to in the photograph. And then once you have that, you have to figure out, well, how are all of these other elements which have to be in the picture going to work with where the focus needs to be. Good metering technique helps me construct the picture the way I want to build it. A lot of times, industrial photography is about making something that's not inherently beautiful. I always shoot raw. I want to bring back as much information as I can. A histogram does not give me all of that information. What metering tells me is where my highlights actually are. What is the separation of my highlight to my mid value, and what is the separation from my deep shadows to my mid value. Recently, I was working on an annual report for one of my financial clients. We took the bankers out to a steel fabrication plant and shot in a mix of light. We walked into the room where they finish the products before delivery to the client, and saw these wonderful shafts of light coming down through a ventilation fan to the site. We very quickly set up a table for the principals in the shot to stand around, and set up one small flash. It was what's known as strobist style or minimalist style lighting. Set up one flash off camera to illuminate them. But the background was these shafts of light coming through this dusty air. It was a matter of balancing these, and plus they were lit by the ambient light. So my exposure ended up being like a quarter of a second at f8 or so. The only light whose intensity I could control was the speed light I was using. So we had to move very, very quickly. We took an incident reading where the principals would be standing, another one back where the secondary players are, and we stole a little light with the bounce panel to bounce some light back into their faces. There was enough smoke in the building that we got the shafts of light to read, and away we went, and we were through in 5 minutes. A shot I did earlier this month that's not in the industrial vein was an environmental portrait of a waitress at a barbecue place here in Atlanta called Daddy D's Barbecue. We lit it with 3 heads, even though it was the middle of the day. To the right of the photo, you see some paintings on the windows, and then in the background, you've got a guy playing a guitar and a sign saying Daddy D's, and then Kia up in the foreground, and she's framed by the edges of a couple of booths. and lit her with using 3 lights: an umbrella as key off to the camera left, another up high to camera left, a fill down low, also an umbrella, and then the second pack with a third head with no light modifier blasting through the windows to light up the place, but to look like daylight. In fact, it's all strobe. And what was tricky about this was not just getting the fill to key ratio right and then the background ratio right. I had to do that through a combination of both metering, incident metering, spot metering, and looking at the preview on the back of the camera to say, that looks right, to finally say that looks right. I believe that all photographs work on 3 levels. First, they first have to have an emotional appeal for you to bother getting to the next 2 levels. The second level is sort of the aesthetics, and the third level is the intellectual level, which is what is the content of the photo. So we use lighting to try to bring those qualities out, to get the picture to have an emotional response in the viewer, which will lead to an appreciation of the photograph, to an appreciation of just what is it I am looking at. All of that happens in, I think, about 3 nanoseconds. You either get the picture right away and want to look at it longer, or you go on to the next one.